What is the passive voice? In general, the active voice makes your writing stronger, more direct, and, you guessed it, more active. The subject is something, or it does the action of the verb in the sentence. With the passive voice, the subject is acted upon by some other performer of the verb. In case you weren't paying attention, the previous two sentences use the type of voice they describe. But the passive voice is not incorrect. In fact, there are times when it can come in handy. Read on to learn how to form the active and passive voices, when using the passive voice is a good idea, and how to avoid confusing it with similar forms. The difference between active and passive voice. While tense is all about time references, voice describes whether the grammatical subject of a clause performs or receives the action of the verb. Here's the formula for the active voice. Subject, plus, verb, performed by the subject, plus, optional object. In a passive voice construction, the grammatical subject of the clause receives the action of the verb. So the ball from the above sentence, which is receiving the action, becomes the subject. The formula: subject, plus, some form of the verb to be, plus, past participle of a transitive verb, plus, optional prepositional phrase. The ball was kicked by Chester. That last little bit, by Chester, is a prepositional phrase that tells you who the performer of the action is. But even though Chester is the one doing the kicking, he's no longer the grammatical subject. A passive voice construction can even drop him from the sentence entirely. Creative ways to use the passive voice in writing. Jane Austen is a master of poking fun at her characters so euphemistically that it seems almost polite, and the passive voice is one of her favorite methods for doing that. Pressed them so cordially to dine at Barton Park every day till they were better settled at home that, though his entreaties were carried to a point of perseverance beyond civility, they could not give offense. Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility. Austen could have rephrased this sentence like so: though Mr. Middleton carried his entreaties to a point of perseverance beyond civility, they could not give offense. Though maybe she means something closer to: Mr. Middleton repeated his invitations beyond the point of politeness and into pushiness, but he meant well and they didn't feel they could say no. In cases like this, the passive voice allows for more polite phrasing, even if it's also a little less clear. In this specific case, Austen's use of the passive also abets her gentle humor and vivid characterization. Directing the reader's attention. This is like the grass getting cut or the president being sworn in. The recipient of the action of the verb is more important than the performer of the action. That treasure lying in its bed of coral, and the corpse of the commander floating sideways on the bridge, were evoked by historians as an emblem of the city drowned in memories. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera. Here, you could invert the sentence to say, historians evoked that treasure, and so on. But that would take the focus away from that oh-so-intriguing treasure and corpse. And since the historians are less important here, the author makes the choice to stress the key idea of the sentence through the passive voice. Here's another famous example that puts the emphasis on what happens to the recipient instead of on what the performer is doing. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence. All men, these days, we take this to mean all people, gets boosted to the front of the phrase because the people and their equality and rights are the focus. It makes sense that a statement declaring independence would focus on the citizens who get that independence, after all. Please like, share and comment on this video.